Hey guys, my name's Eric. Thank you for joining me today. Now, if you're like me on the music production side of YouTube, the sound design side of YouTube, maybe even the synthesizer, bye gear all the time side of YouTube, you've probably heard about Korg's new Phase 8 synthesizer. It's they call it a acoustic synthesizer because it has real physical tines and real magnetic pickups that are the sound source. If you're anything like me, that probably sounds a lot like an electric kalimba. So, I got to thinking about this old trick that I think people know, and I think YouTube videos have been made about, where you take electric, which is Ableton's stock keyboard synthesizer. It does a lot of Rhodesy, Wurlitzer kind of sounds. One sec. And there's an old trick for electric where you take the pickup and you turn it all the way down and you get a sort of tiny, more kalimba-y tone. And I was playing around with that one day, enjoying, if you turn it up the right way, you really can start to get like a kalimba with a contact mic on it sort of sound, with a lot of attack on the initial. And you slowly get something that sounds more hollow, more acoustic, has a little bit more of a finger pluck, not a lot of stiffness in the hammer. But, you know, at the end of the day, it still, to me, really always sounds like an electric piano. Or at least it sounds a little too electronic to be a kalimba, you know? And here, you know, it's just not satisfying to me as a kalimba sound. And I was sharing it with my girlfriend, who's a percussionist, and it wasn't very satisfying to her as a kalimba sound either. So we were working on how do you make a more convincing kalimba? And I've been getting into physical modeling lately, and a lot of what I've been doing for like Zion James style like kick modeling, snare modeling is an operator because of the FM capabilities. An operator is super dense and super deep, and you can do a ton with it. And we're not doing anything super mind-blowing with it today. We actually have it in the way where all the voices are acting independently and not FMing at all, which I know sounds kind of lame because Operator is a super powerful FM synth, but please hear me out. So, let's first look at what we're trying to model. So, spoilers for later. Here is a video of a kalimba being played. He's going to do a little wah-wah thing in the sound hole with his hand, and that's super cool. But don't worry about that right now. Just worry about the keys and the body, and try and imagine all the components of the sound individually. The initial pluck, the overtones, the harmonics. Now this is a treble kalimba. Kalimba Magic might be a kalimba website, like a website where you buy a kalimba. I don't know much about it, but I'm using their kalimba demo. And thank you so much, Kalimba Magic, for presumably being okay with that later. I haven't checked yet. So, let's break down the sounds one at a time. For me, the first obvious thing is that initial pluck of the keys, and here's what I've got. It's A, I set up the envelope like this. I gave it just the subtlest little bit of a pitch envelope. And velocity, I was looking for a way to make it so velocity doesn't affect the sustain. I have sustain turned all the way down, and for the key pluck, that's perfect. Try not to be bothered by the actual physical MIDI keys over here that I'm hitting. Try and listen mostly to the sound of the synth. But then we need the actual sound, and I used a sine wavy sound with a little bit of a slower attack, so you get the pluck and then the attack of the initial sound. The one thing I really was not satisfied here, you'll notice I left velocity all the way up because I want you to be able to hit harder or softer and get those dynamics, but even with sustain turned all the way down, a sine wave is a sine wave, and the way that operator is set up, if you hold it down, you will get the sound pretty much as long as you hold it down. And yes, the release is high. I realize that the release being high is going to be what the next comment is, but to have the kalimba ring out in just such a way, because the kalimba sound continues for a while after that initial pluck and becomes overtony and ringy, and I really wanted to capture that, and so I had to compromise a little bit on the envelope. So, there's the controversy, and I'm addressing it, don't cancel me. Then, this is a chart that represents the harmonic spectrum of a kalimba at C4. This is C4. Now, if you look, between the 6th and the 7th harmonic, we have a spike. This is the 6th harmonic. It's a little bit sharp. And we also have a spike down here at -100 cents. So, we have to do a little bit of rounding. For C4, 261 cents. If you divide that in half, you'd really get 130.8. We're forced to go with 0.5 for that lower harmonic because that's the lowest that operator will go. If you want, you can fine-tune it, and you might get something closer. I left it at 0.5 just because I like it there. But tweaking the fine-tuning is always fun in operator anyway, so you'll get tons of fun all sorts of fun harmonies and ideas there, and there could be something you really like there. Also, this might be a controversial choice. I tried fixing the initial pluck at points because it's percussive, but to me that makes the sound feel a lot less glued together. This will be your personal choice. The download to this exact operator kalimba preset that I've made will be available, but obviously tweak it, make your own presets, leave a comment, tell me what you think I did wrong. Feel free to give people mine or give people your own or do your own take on it. All freely available. Music is free, And here is, of course, our 7th harmonic. Instead of making it the 6th harmonic and then sharping it, which I think would be more accurate, I liked it a little bit more at the 7th harmonic a little bit sharp rather than the 6th a lot sharp. Subtle differences. If you turn up the level, you get more of that harmonic. Technically, it's between the 6th and the 7th harmonic, so by making it the 7th and a little bit sharp, I'm intentionally making my model a little bit inaccurate, but it sounds better to my ear, and I'm a firm believer that you should always follow your ear, so that's what I went with. And if you don't like that mine is a little bit inaccurate, by all means, all my presets are super visible and can be copied and tweaked, and you can download this exact one if you'd like it too. Let's move into phase 2. There will be a little chapter marker here, and we'll call this phase 2. Now we've got a kalimba, right? What are we going to do with it? So, I was looking for inspiration, and I was looking at Kalimba ambient music. Here's one from the Dig project. They're where I bought my didgeridoo, not sponsored. Great, drown a kalimba in reverb. There's an idea. Here, this is a bit more of a harsh noise track, or it's a kalimba through some guitar pedals, and it's a little experimental. Go follow JB, by the way. And here's a track called Wisps of Kalimba from Robinson's Village. Similar idea. I don't believe they ever play the kalimba live in this one. I believe the kalimba is recorded on this tape loop, and we'll talk more about tape loops later in what I like to call Phase 3. So by now I'm certain you understand what I'm stabbing at. Let's put this kalimba through some effects. Now I rigged up this effects rack to go with this kalimba. I even made a little instrument rack that has the two of them paired together, easy and ready to go. And the download will just have all this stuff, and you can use the whole instrument, or just the kalimba, or just the effects rack and put it on something else. Put it on your voice if you want. I'm going to put it on my voice real quick. It's going to sound bad, I think. Here it is on my voice. This is just to cut off the annoying hum of the radiator behind me. Hope you guys don't mind. And now my voice is weird, and now we all like it. Alright, but for right now, let's focus on using the effects rack on the kalimba and not on a guitar or on your voice. And quit distracting me. Essentially, the effects rack, I'm going to open it up real quick, but I'm not going to open up for too long because it's super ugly. I did that classic thing where you're excited and you're working on the effect rack and you map all your parameters to the knobs, and your macros end up in a random order, and then you go up and clean up your macros later. But let's talk about it. So, there are 3 chains. The clean chain, which only has limiters on it. There's 2 limiters, and just to be real quick about why, I didn't want one limiter that you absolutely crank. I wanted 2 limiters that you can control and raise slowly. And the limiters are mostly on there because this electric piano preset, without limiting, is so freaking quiet. So just by default, if you're using it here, you need to crank the limiters. But on the operator version, we get to take it a little bit easier and keep the levels lower. But you have a master volume, which you can use real quick and easy. You have a clean, an ambient, and a harsh. And so, real quick, nothing you guys couldn't set up yourselves. You're all very smart. The ambient, also has 2 limiters, the harsh also has 2 limiters. It's just the gain staging that I chose to go with, and obviously it's not like the perfect way to gain stage it, but I found it to be simple and effective, and again, digital clipping is a little bit ugly, and sometimes we want to avoid it. I say that, well, later I'm going to move right into the harsh section where we're going to be digital clipping, but I didn't want to hit one limiter really hard. I wanted to hit 2 limiters gently. So we've got a corpus, and the corpus, there are no knobs to adjust the corpus, so the ambient automatically running through this corpus, and I thought the corpus did a decent job. Okay, all the other ambient effects are off. So here is, I thought it did a good job of imitating like a resonant space, or even the body of the kalimba, if you want to go in and turn the dry wet down. Then we've got a hybrid reverb, we've got a delay, we've got a pitch shifter. That's all we've got for now. This gate at the beginning, this is a classic trick. You route the side chain, you route it for the instrument that it's in, you route it post mixer, and then from the other chain, and you hit the headphone mode, and now you're creating a feedback loop, and I'll show you how we use that later. Harsh, same gate trick, it's getting fed into from ambient, if you want to use that. Then it's got a saturator, it's got a pedal. These are both connected together with the drive knobs, the drive knob, so it's driving both of these. It's driving the saturator and the gain of the fuzz pedal. And that's just a nice way to get some distortion with character. And then the amp is deciding how much of the amp sim you get, which just real quick, it's pretty much a default lead preset of this amp, fiddle with the knobs if you want, and then I find that you always get more depth by doing a left-right of Ableton's amp sim. That's a trick I learned from Seed to Stage. Definitely check out Seed to Stage. He does some fantastic stuff. And then at the end I put this grain delay with an LFO, just for a fun, want something extra to do effect, to just add a little bit of sauce. Now, for the feedback modes, feedback mode, the normal one, is what you would expect from a pedal board, which is drive before space effects, so drive before reverb. The exception there is that the shifter is at the end of all the effects chains, which normally you'd put a filter right at the beginning, but sometimes we do things in a non-traditional way, and sometimes that's okay. So, one sec. So, ambient is going to run into harsh when we do this, and we have to be a little careful with levels, because it gets loud quick. One easy way to make it safe is to make sure that your feedback loop always nets a loss in volume. So as drive goes into ambient right now, ambient is increasing the volume of drive, but then ambient signal goes back into drive, and drive is a net loss in the decibels. It still might get loud, it still might get harsh, it still might get unpredictable, but we can be pretty sure that the feedback will stop. One of these days I'm going to use an effect rack to model Karplus-Strong synthesis, but we'll have to see when I get to that. And I created some presets just to make it super easy to flip through. Here's one that uses feedback mode. But this feedback mode isn't particularly dangerous because you're not creating the loop. The danger comes in when you turn both of these knobs up. And that is why, if you're randomizing presets, these two, feedback and shoegaze feedback, are exempt from randomization. If you want to turn that off, you can, but do it at your own risk. So now we've got what I think is a pretty good effects rack. We've got a lot of different presets, which I think will make your life a lot easier if you're trying to use this synthesizer. It definitely makes it feel, at least in my opinion, more like an instrument that you can just pick up and play. And I think most of the settings on these knobs are at least interesting. I won't promise that they're all usable or all musical, but I think they will all spark thought, which is good. What I really want is for you to watch this video and then turn off YouTube and get inspired and go make some music of your own. And whether you use this idea, or this sparks a completely new idea in you, or you don't want to make a thing, you just want to download this and start playing with it and make some noises, that is all perfect to me. And I want to hear you guys try and do stuff with it. Your homework is to find a musical application for this, whether you're in a rock band and you make a heavy song with a kalimba lead, or whether you make some cliche Instagram-ambient, that's the first preset, little loop. And speaking of ambient, I've got literally one more trick that I want to show you. I'd love it if y'all could humor me for one more trick. You've already been such a great audience, and thank you so much. So, we've got our kalimba set up here, and it plays itself because I'm using Ableton's bounce. It's nothing too special. It's a D major pentatonic scale. So if I hit play, great. It's going to play some random C major pentatonic. And let's put it in a preset we like. Awesome. So now, on a return track, we've got a looper, and that's all you need. I like to look up presets that have tape in them and try and give it some tape character or sound. You guys might have your own tape plugin that you like. There's plenty of good ones. I like Aberrant DSP's Sketch Cassette a lot if you're looking for a cheap one. If you're looking for a free one, Air Windows, completely free, has a great suite. Melda Audio has a free plugin suite that's great. Kilohertz has a great plugin suite that's free. And obviously you can recreate a tape effect with an EQ with a little bit of noise to imitate the hiss. Maybe that's what we do next time. I don't know. I think there are lots of great ways to simulate a tape. It's sought after sound. It's a good thing to think about how to do, you know? So, all we need is this looper, and this is the trick. The looper is your tape loop. Think of a guy making a tape loop, right? Pops open his cassette tape, spreads out the actual physical tape inside the magnetic tape, cuts it with a little straight razor, tapes it back together in a loop, hence tape loop. Now, we're going to do exactly that, but we're going to do it digital. And we're making all the noise ourselves right now. So, song control, none. That's my preference. Tempo control, none. Quantization, get that out of here. record. You can set bars if you want. If you want a loop that fits a specific something, go ahead. I just do variable length. I'm going to vary the speed later anyway, so who cares? Input always goes to output is what I'm going to do for now. There are reasons you might not want to do that if you want the looper going, but you also want the track that was recorded into the looper playing a second melody with a different character. But let's keep things simple, always. And also there's overdubbing on this, so you can go as many times as you want. You can set up 4 of these and make a whole bunch of looper tracks that are playing out of time with each other or in different times. You can do lots of drones and ambient stuff. Here we go. Alright, we've got a loop. And I think it's a loop that sounds good. Let's play it. So this is a mistake I just made. And I'm going to point it out real quick. The looper, I don't like to run it to the master. I like to run it to an audio track. So you just go audio 2, master. You've got your track over here, 5. And I like to live monitor it, because if I'm live monitoring it, I can hear it, even though it's run to audio 5. But if you want to record this and make this a track, routing it like this, and then hitting the record arm here, and then recording. And so as you can see, we've got audio, we've got our sample, we can turn that into a drone in the background of a song. That can be the whole song, but it's the easiest way that I have found to export that as audio, that you can then obviously do all the things that you can do with audio. And now that we've got our loop, which we like, and I hope we like the loop because I'm not recording another one right now, we can adjust the speed. These up and down knobs are your best friend if you're trying to do something that's in a key, because these do octaves, which is obviously very helpful. Half the tempo, 1 octave down, twice the tempo, 1 octave up, etc., etc. Super helpful. Here's it with the tape effects. You can reverse it if you want. I think reverse is a fun trick. And who says that you can't have the time slowly change? I mean, this looper can be your instrument now, and you can play this looper. You can have effects on this looper, and you can play the effects. And if you want, you can play over the looper. You can hop in, like I know this is a D major pentatonic scale. C, right? D major pentatonic. You could bring another instrument in over top of this. You could add a drum beat to this. The sky is the limit, but this is a really interesting, really lush, really unpredictable pad. And if you don't want a pad, if a pad's not what you're going for, you can get all sorts of sparkly, twinkly effects and chops. Now it sounds like you're sprinkling pixie dust on your music. So, we've got 2 Kalimba instruments. We've got an effects rack that, again, you are invited to put on anything you want and go crazy with it. I mean, I was just scratching the surface. You can run ambient into harsh. You can run harsh into ambient. There's a granular mode. I didn't really touch in this, but it has 1 knob granular effects at the complete end after both the harsh and the ambient, and after, if you want to feedback them, after the feedback. So these are all things you can play with. And this is all your homework. Do something with the looper. Start an Ableton track and use the looper tool and go crazy with it. Find some sound design that gets you excited and makes you want to use music, or makes you want to make music. And please, by all means, let me know what you're working on, what you do with this. I'm going to include a link to a Gumtree, I think is the website. And it's a website where people, like, sell digital products, but these are going to be completely free. If you want to make a donation, you're allowed, but I'm not going to ask you to do that, and I'm not going to encourage you to do that. It's just the website lets you if you want to buy me a coffee. And the Gumtree will let you type in $0, give me now, and we'll give you both instrument racks, both instruments with no effects, the effect rack, which is the same for both, and probably a copy of this session, minus my voice right here, so that you can use my exact looper setup that I already did for you, even though I think you can figure this one out. If you have any questions, if there's anything I didn't cover enough, if there's anything I talked too much about, and if there's anything you want to hear me cover in the future, just let me know in the comments. I'm going to try and make another video like this soon, but I won't make any promises of, like, an upload schedule. I'm very new to this YouTube thing and figuring everything out. But if you liked this, please let me know you liked it, because that would just mean the world to me. Alright, have a great day, guys. Go make some music. Peace.